I did not leave him when we were arguing. I did not leave when I was crying in the bathroom with my hand over my mouth so our daughter would not hear me. I did not leave when I repeated the same pain so many times that even I got tired of my own voice. No, I left when I became quiet. And the cruelest part was this. He thought my silence meant he had finally won. He thought peace had returned to our home. But what he did not understand was that a woman argues when she still cares. She explains when she still believes. She repeats herself when she is still trying to save what is breaking. But when she goes quiet, she is not resting. She is leaving from the inside. Before I tell you how I got there, tell me in the comments where you are watching from and what time this story found you. Morning, afternoon. Late at night. I read every comment, and I am grateful you are here. Now let me tell you how I lost my voice before I ever walked out the door. My name is Alina Brooks, and for almost 9 years, I believed patience was the same thing as love. That was my first mistake. My second mistake was thinking that if I explained something gently enough, clearly enough, lovingly enough, the man who claimed to love me would finally understand what he was doing to me. And my third mistake was believing that staying quiet made me strong. It did not at first. At first, my silence was fear. Then it became exhaustion. Then it became grief. And finally, it became freedom. But before I became the woman who learned how to stop chasing love that no longer protected her, I was a woman standing in the kitchen at 11:42 p.m., reheating dinner for a man who had not called, had not texted, and had not cared enough to explain why he was 4 hours late. Our daughter, Maya, was 6 years old then. She had fallen asleep on the couch with her school shoes still on, one sock halfway off her foot, her little chest rising and falling beneath the pink blanket she dragged everywhere. She had waited for him because he promised he would help her finish her solar system project. All evening she kept asking, "Is Daddy almost home?" And all evening I kept lying. "He'll be here soon, baby," I said. "He probably got stuck at work. You know, Daddy gets busy." By the fourth time, Maya stopped asking. She just sat beside the cardboard planets we had painted together, holding Saturn in her small hands as if waiting patiently enough would make her father walk through the door and make everything right. But he did not. So I helped her glue the planets myself. I praised her crooked little stars. I took pictures. I told her she did a beautiful job, and when she whispered, "Do you think Daddy forgot?" I smiled so quickly, it hurt my face. "No, sweetheart, Daddy just got busy." That was the kind of woman I was back then. I protected him from the consequences of his own absence, even from his child. When Darian finally came home, he smelled like expensive cologne and outside air. Not alcohol, not perfume, nothing obvious enough for me to grab and hold up like evidence. That was the thing about Darian. He rarely gave me something clean to accuse him with. He gave me shadows, half-truths, changed plans, late nights, a phone turned face down, a tone in his voice that made me feel foolish for asking normal questions. He walked into the kitchen, loosened his tie, glanced at the covered plate on the counter, then looked at me like I was the problem waiting for him. "You are still up?" Darian asked. I stared at him, not because I wanted to fight, because I wanted him to notice. The cold dinner, the school project, the sleeping child on the couch, the disappointment sitting in the room like a third adult. "You promised Maya you would help with her project," I said. Darian sighed before I even finished. That sigh became the soundtrack of our marriage. "Alina, I had work." "You could have called," I said. "I was busy. A text takes 5 seconds. He rubbed his forehead. "Can we not do this tonight?" And there it was. Do this? That was what he called it whenever I asked him to be accountable. Do this. As if my pain was a performance. As if my questions were noise. As if expecting him to keep a promise to his daughter was some dramatic hobby I had picked up to ruin his evening. I looked toward the living room where Maya slept, her cheek pressed against the couch cushion, her tiny hand still stained with blue paint from planet Earth. "She waited for you," I said quietly. His eyes flicked toward her, then away. I'll make it up to her, Darian said. I wanted to believe that, I truly did. Because when a woman still loves you, she will take the smallest sentence and build hope out of it. So I nodded. I put his food in the microwave. I told myself he was tired. I told myself work was stressful. I told myself every marriage had seasons. And while the microwave hummed, I stood there with my arms folded across my chest, swallowing the words I should have said. That night was not the night I left. It was not even the night I stopped loving him. It was just one of the many nights where a small piece of me quietly broke. And because I was still speaking, he thought I was still whole. After Darian ate, he did what he always did. He kissed Maya on the forehead while she slept. He came behind me in the kitchen, wrapped an arm around my waist, and kissed my temple like tenderness could erase neglect. You worry too much, he murmured softly, almost lovingly. That was what made it dangerous. Cruelty is easier to leave when it comes wearing claws. It is much harder when it comes dressed like affection. I gently moved away from him and began rinsing dishes. You made a promise to her, I said. I said I'll make it up to her, he snapped. You always say that. Darian leaned against the counter, his jaw tightening. What exactly do you want from me, Alina? I turned off the faucet. I stared at the sink because if I looked directly at him, I knew my voice would rise. And when my voice rose, somehow I always became the problem. I want partnership, I said. He laughed once. Not loudly, not kindly either. Partnership. Yes. What does that even mean? It means I should not feel like a married single mother. The room went still. Darian straightened. His eyes hardened. That's dramatic. My chest tightened. Dramatic! Another word he used whenever truth made him uncomfortable. I am not asking for luxury, Darian. What are you asking for? For you to mean what you say. For you to show up. For me not to have to carry everything emotional in this house. His voice sharpened. I work hard, Alina. I know you work hard, Darian. I do too. You think money makes itself? This is not about money. I make money as well, but I always put this family first. I put our daughter's needs first. It's always about something with you, he said. That landed hard. Not because it was loud, because it was familiar. There are sentences that become termites in a marriage. Tiny things, repeated often, quietly eating the foundation, until one day the whole house collapses and everyone acts surprised. It's always something with you. That was his favorite sentence whenever he wanted silence more than truth. I went quiet for a moment. Then I said the truth. Yes, Darian, it is always something, because what hurts me never gets fixed. It only gets postponed until the next time. He threw his hands up. I can't keep doing this conversation. And then he walked upstairs. Just like that. Conversation over. Case closed. Verdict delivered. My feelings dismissed by the simple act of him leaving the room. I stood alone in the kitchen, listening to his footsteps overhead. Then silence. Heavy silence. The kind that sits on your shoulders, the kind that makes your bones tired. I walked into the living room and knelt beside Maya. Her little eyes fluttered open. Daddy came home, Maya asked. Her sleepy voice nearly broke me. Yes, baby. Did he see my planets? My throat tightened. Yes. Did he like them? I swallowed hard. He loved them. She smiled, satisfied, and drifted back to sleep. And there it was again. Another lie stitched together to protect the image of a father she adored. Another piece of emotional labor he would never even know I carried. I carried his reputation in our home like it was another child I had to raise. That was love in its most foolish form. Not devotion, not loyalty. Self-erasure. Sometimes women think they are keeping peace. What they are really doing is bleeding quietly so no one has to look at the wound, and blood kept hidden still weakens the body. The next morning, Darian was charming. That was his pattern. Distance. Conflict. Charm. Reset. He stood in the kitchen making pancakes shaped like stars for Maya. He danced with her barefoot on the tile floor while old music played softly from his phone. He winked at me. Peace offering? Darian asked. Maya giggled. Mommy, Daddy made star pancakes. I smiled because Maya was smiling, but something small inside me whispered, this is performance, not repair. Still. I ignored that voice, because hope is stubborn. Hope will live in broken houses longer than wisdom ever would. At breakfast, Maya looked up at Darian. Daddy, are you coming to my school on Friday? He smiled. What's Friday? My class reading day. I am reading my story in front of everybody. He touched her nose. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Maya glowed. Children trust promises like they are sacred things. They do not yet know adults break them casually. I looked at Darian, he looked at me. For a second, there was understanding in his eyes, as if he knew what I was silently asking. Please mean it this time. He nodded once, a quiet assurance, and foolishly. I believed him again, because when love is starving, it mistakes crumbs for a feast. Friday came with rain, not the soft kind that makes a morning feel peaceful, but the heavy gray kind that turns windows blurry and roads impatient. Maya woke up excited anyway. She came into my room at 6:18 a.m. wearing her yellow pajama top and one purple sock, holding 3 folded sheets of paper against her chest. Mommy, Maya whispered. Can you hear me read it one more time? I opened my eyes and smiled before my body was ready to move. Come here, baby. She climbed into bed beside me and sat cross-legged on top of the blanket. Darian's side of the bed was already empty. That was not unusual. Lately, he left early without waking me. Sometimes, he said it was work. Sometimes, he said it was traffic. Sometimes, he said nothing at all because he had learned that silence could be used as a shield long before I learned it could become a door. Maya smoothed her papers with serious little hands. My story is called The Brave Little Moon, she announced. I sat up against the headboard. That sounds beautiful. Maya cleared her throat dramatically, the way children do when they believe the whole world is about to listen. The moon was little, but she was not afraid of the dark because she knew the sun would come back. She looked at me quickly. Was that good? That was perfect, I said with a smile. She smiled and kept reading. Her voice was soft at first, then stronger. Every now and then she stumbled over a word, and when she did, she looked at me with wide, worried eyes. I helped her gently. Not too much, just enough. Because children need support, not someone taking the page out of their hands. When she finished, she hugged the papers to her chest. Daddy said, he's coming. Right? Maya asked. There it was. The question I had been hoping she would not ask before breakfast. I reached for my phone from the nightstand. No message from Darian. No missed call. Nothing. I forced my voice to sound light. Yes, baby. He said he would come. Maya nodded slowly, but her smile did not return all the way. Can you text him? I will. She slid off the bed and walked toward the bathroom. Tell him I am reading after lunch. Mrs. Gentry said parents can come at 1:00 p.m. I'll tell him. As soon as she closed the bathroom door, I called Darian. No answer. I texted him. Maya reads at 1:00 p.m. today. Please don't forget. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, his reply came. I know. That was it. 2 words. No warmth, no promise, no apology for making me feel like I had to remind a grown man to show up for his child. Still, I held onto those 2 words like they were a signed contract. I know, sometimes, when you are used to being disappointed, even the smallest acknowledgement feels like progress. At 12:42 p.m., I sat in the tiny school auditorium between a grandmother wearing a red church hat and a father holding a bouquet of grocery store flowers. The room smelled like crayons, damp coats, and cafeteria pizza. Children shuffled across the stage, nervous and proud, while parents lifted phones and whispered encouragement. Maya sat in the second row with her class, her hair pulled into two neat puffs with yellow ribbons she had picked herself. Every few minutes, she turned around looking for him. Each time she did, I smiled and gave her a small thumbs up. Each time, her eyes went past me to the empty aisle beside the double doors. At 12:58 p.m., I checked my phone. Nothing. At 1:03 p.m., I called. No answer. At 1:09 p.m., Maya's class was called. My stomach tightened. Mrs. Gentry adjusted the microphone and smiled warmly. Our next reader is Maya Brooks. With her story, The Brave Little Moon. Everyone clapped. Maya walked to the microphone. She looked small, standing there. Small, but brave. She unfolded her papers carefully. Then she looked at the back of the room. The double doors remained closed. For 1 second, her little face changed. Not enough for everyone else to notice. But I noticed, a mother always notices the moment her child learns to expect less. Maya looked down and began. My story is called The Brave Little Moon. Her voice trembled on the first line. I lifted my phone and recorded with one hand while wiping my eyes with the other. Not because I was sad that Darian missed a school reading. No, I was sad because I knew I would have to explain his absence again. I would have to smooth the sharp edges. I would have to turn his failure into something soft enough for a 6-year-old heart to hold. And that was becoming my second job. Not wife, not mother, translator. I translated neglect into busyness. I translated broken promises into accidents. I translated emotional absence into hard work. I translated disappointment into something Maya could survive. When Maya finished, the room clapped loudly. She smiled, but it was not the full sunshine smile she had at breakfast. It was smaller, protected. When she came running to me afterward, I wrapped her in my arms. You did amazing, I said. She pulled back and looked toward the doors again. Did Daddy text? Maya asked. I checked my phone even though I already knew. No, baby. Oh, that tiny word hurt worse than any argument Darian and I had ever had. Oh, not anger, not tears. Just a little girl making room inside herself for disappointment. On the drive home, rain tapped against the windshield. Maya sat in the back seat holding her certificate. She was quiet, too quiet. I looked at her through the rearview mirror. Maya. Yes, Mommy. I am proud of you. I know, Mommy. You were brave. She stared out the window. The moon in my story waited for the sun, she said. I nodded slowly. She did. Maya's voice became smaller. But what if the sun forgets to come back? My hands tightened around the steering wheel. There are questions children ask that are not really about stories. I blinked hard. Then the moon learns she can still shine. Maya turned toward the window again. I do not know if that answer helped her, but it changed something in me, because I heard myself say it. And for the first time, I wondered if I believed it for myself. Darian came home that night at 8:26 p.m. Maya was already in bed. I was sitting at the dining table with her certificate in front of me. Not because I wanted to ambush him, because I wanted him to see it, because I wanted guilt to do what love apparently could not. He walked in holding his phone, laughing quietly at something on the screen. When he saw me, the laughter stopped. What's wrong? Darian asked. I stared at him. You missed it. His face shifted, not into shame, into annoyance. That told me everything. Alina, no, don't Alina me. He dropped his keys into the bowl by the door. I got pulled into something. You always get pulled into something. It was important. So was she. He exhaled sharply. Don't do that. Do what? Make it sound like I don't care about my daughter. I stood up slowly. Then stop behaving like you don't. His eyes flashed. That's unfair, I said quietly. Yes, unfair. You have no idea what pressure I am under. Because you don't tell me, I shouldn't have to report every detail of my day like I am a child. You are not a child, Darian. That's the problem. You are a husband and a father, and somehow I am still begging you to act like both. He stared at me. For a moment, he looked like he might say something honest, something human, something that could have changed the night. Instead, he said, "I am tired." I almost laughed, not because anything was funny, because women become historians in failing relationships. We remember every sentence, every excuse, every promise. Every time a man stands in the ashes and complains about smoke, I pointed toward Maya's certificate. "She looked for you." He glanced at it. "I'll talk to her tomorrow. She should not have to keep being comforted tomorrow because you failed her today." His jaw clenched. I said, "I'll talk to her." "That is not enough." "What do you want me to do, Alina? Build a time machine?" "No, I want you to care before the damage happens." Darian looked away. That was when I saw it. Just for a second, his phone screen lit up in his hand. A message preview appeared. I did not see the full name. Only the beginning, Cell, and, beneath it, 4 words. "Did you get it?" Darian turned the phone face down so quickly that my heart noticed before my mind did. I looked at him. "Who's Cell?" His expression went blank. "What?" he asked quickly. "Your phone. Someone named Cell texted you." He slipped the phone into his pocket. "Work! What kind of work?" He laughed under his breath. "Here we go again." "No, answer me." "It's a vendor named Cell, Selena. She handles one of our accounts." I watched him carefully. "Why did she ask if you got it?" His face hardened. "You read my messages now. I saw it flash, so now I can't even get a work text without you investigating me." "That's not what I am doing." "It is exactly what you are doing." Darian stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You are looking for a problem because you want to be angry." I stared at him. And there it was again. The reversal. He missed our daughter's school event. He came home laughing at his phone. He hid a message, and somehow, I was the one creating problems. That is how emotional exhaustion begins. Not from one large betrayal, but from being forced to defend your right to notice what is obvious. I did not continue. Not because I believed him, because Maya was sleeping upstairs, and I was tired of giving the walls another argument to remember. So I picked up the certificate. I placed it carefully in Maya's school folder. Then I walked past him. Darian called after me. "That's it?" I stopped at the foot of the stairs. "What? You are just going to walk away?" I turned around. For the first time that night, my voice was calm. "You said you were tired." He blinked, caught by his own excuse. "So I am letting you rest." Then I went upstairs. But I did not sleep. I lay awake in the dark beside a man who came to bed at midnight, turned his back to me, and breathed like he had nothing to confess. At 2:13 a.m., his phone buzzed once on the nightstand. I opened my eyes. He did not move. The room was dark except for the pale glow of the screen. I should not have looked. That is what people say when they want to discuss privacy instead of betrayal. But there is a difference between invading peace and investigating pain. And by then, peace had already left our house. The phone screen showed another message. "Selena, please don't forget Saturday. He's been asking, not the account, not the vendor. I stared at those words until they blurred. Please don't forget Saturday. He's been asking." I did not touch the phone. I did not wake Darian. I did not scream. I did not demand answers in the dark. I simply lay there with my eyes open, listening to his steady breathing, while something inside me began to rearrange itself. Because a woman argues when she thinks truth can still save the house. But suspicion teaches her to listen differently. And that night, for the first time, I stopped listening to his words and started listening to the spaces between them. Morning came too bright for what I had learned in the dark. There should be a law against sunlight after betrayal. The world should at least have the decency to stay gray when your heart is carrying something heavy. But outside my bedroom window, birds sang shamelessly. Cars moved. Neighbors walked dogs. Children rode bicycles. The world kept moving like nothing had happened. That is one of life's cruelest lessons. Your private heartbreak never stops the public clock. I lay still for a moment, staring at the ceiling. Beside me, Darian slept peacefully. One arm stretched across his pillow, mouth slightly open, breathing slow and deep. He slept like innocence. That made me angry. Not loud anger, not sharp anger. The cold kind, the kind that settles deep in your bones and waits. I turned my head and studied him. For years, I had looked at this man through the lens of hope. Hope softens edges. Hope explains away missing pieces. Hope can make a woman call shadows sunlight if she is desperate enough to keep warm. But suspicion is different. Suspicion sharpens everything. Now I saw details. His phone tucked under his pillow, instead of on the nightstand. That was new. The faint scent of cologne he only wore on important meetings. The expensive watch I bought him 3 Christmases ago that he never wore for me. But lately wore often. The distance in his touch. The impatience in his answers. The secrecy dressed up as stress. My chest tightened. Then I heard small footsteps. Maya. Her bedroom door opened softly, followed by the gentle shuffle of little feet across hardwood. She appeared in our doorway wearing fuzzy pink slippers and holding her stuffed rabbit by one ear. Her hair was wild from sleep. Her eyes were sad, not crying, just carrying disappointment quietly, that somehow hurt more. She looked at me and whispered, "Is Daddy awake?" I looked at Darian, still asleep. Still peaceful, still unavailable. I pushed myself up carefully. "No, baby, come here." Maya climbed beside me and curled into my side. Her little body was warm. Children lean into you with total trust. That kind of trust is sacred. Adults break it far too casually. Maya traced circles on the blanket with one small finger. "Mommy? Yes?" Did Daddy forget because he doesn't love school things? I swallowed hard. No, sweetheart. Then why? That simple question sat between us like a stone. Why? Children always ask the cleanest version of painful truths. Not complicated, just honest. Why? I kissed the top of her head. Sometimes grown-ups carry things they don't know how to talk about. Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she asked softly, "Does Daddy carry me?" My heart nearly broke in half. I pulled her closer. "He should." That answer slipped out before I could soften it. Maya tilted her head. "What do you mean?" I forced a smile. "I mean Daddy loves you very much." She nodded, but I could feel uncertainty in her small body. Children hear what adults try not to say. They always do. Behind us, Darian stirred. His voice came rough with sleep. "What's going on?" Maya brightened instantly. Children forgive with terrifying speed. "Daddy!" She jumped off the bed and climbed onto him. He smiled and wrapped his arms around her. "Good morning, Bug." Maya pressed her cheek against his chest. "You missed my reading." There was no accusation in her voice. Only fact, pure fact. That made it sharper than anger ever could. Darian kissed her forehead. "I know, baby. Daddy's sorry." Maya looked up. "Really sorry," he smiled. "Really sorry. Promise. Promise. Promise." I watched him say it so easily, so smoothly. Promise. The same mouth that whispered promises in daylight while hiding truths in darkness. Maya relaxed. Children believe what they need to believe. Adults too, if we are honest. Then Darian looked at me over Maya's shoulder. A quiet warning sat in his eyes. Without words, as if saying, "Do not start, not now, not in front of her." I gave him nothing. No anger. No expression. No opening. Just stillness. That seemed to unsettle him more than shouting would have. He frowned slightly. "Everything okay?" I answered calmly. "Perfectly fine." He studied me. For years, my feelings had been visible. He knew my anger, knew my tears, knew my frustration. But calmness. That was foreign territory. Downstairs, I made waffles, while Darian played with Maya in the living room. Their laughter drifted into the kitchen. Normally, that sound healed something in me. This morning, It made me ache, because suddenly I wondered, was he capable of loving her fully? Or was she receiving the leftovers of a divided life? That thought made my hands stop moving. I stared at the waffle batter. Please don't forget Saturday, he's been asking. Who was he? A nephew? A client's son? A child? My mind ran in circles. Then another thought arrived, quieter and far more dangerous. What if Maya is not the only child waiting for him? My knees weakened. I grabbed the counter. No, surely not. Not that. Anything but that. But betrayal is strange. Once suspicion enters the room, every memory stands up and introduces itself differently. Late nights, unexplained transfers from our account, labeled consulting, cash withdrawals, secretiveness, business trips that somehow multiplied over the last 3 years, weekend disappearances explained as emergency meetings. The look on his face whenever I asked too many questions, pieces, so many pieces, and suddenly they looked less like coincidence and more like a puzzle I had been refusing to solve. At breakfast, Darian became overly attentive. That was another tell. Guilt makes people generous in suspicious ways. He poured orange juice for Maya, packed her snack bag, complimented my hair, touched my shoulder twice, smiled too much. Charm can be camouflage. Big plans today? Darian asked casually. I spread butter on toast. Laundry, grocery shopping, normal life. He nodded slowly. I may be late tonight. Of course. Work? I asked. Yes. His eyes held mine half a second too long. He was measuring me, watching for reaction. I gave him none. Drive safe, I said. That startled him. Usually late-night announcements led to questions, concern, frustration, conversation. Today, nothing. He leaned back slightly. That's it? I looked up. What else would there be? He forced a laugh. Nothing. Maya looked between us. Children always feel weather changes. Adults think they hide. When Darian left, he kissed Maya, grabbed his keys, then paused at the door. He looked at me. You are quiet. I met his gaze. I am thinking. About what? I smiled faintly. Everything. He stood there another second, unsettled. Then he left. The front door closed. Silence filled the house. Maya colored quietly at the dining table. I stood by the window watching Darian drive away. Then, I made a decision. Not a loud one. Not dramatic, just clear. Truth does not always arrive by confession. Sometimes it must be uncovered. Sometimes love has to stop being blind long enough to see. I turned to Maya. Sweetheart? She looked up. Yes, Mommy. How would you feel about spending the afternoon with Grandma? Her whole face lit up. Can we bake cookies? I smiled. Yes, and watch cartoons? Yes. And can Bunny come? She asked, lifting her stuffed rabbit. Bunny is invited too, she laughed. Simple joy, pure joy. Watching her smile hardened my resolve. Because whatever truth waited for me, I needed to find it before it shaped her childhood any further. I called my mother. She answered on the second ring. Alina, everything okay? My mother had always been the kind of woman who could hear storms hiding inside a hello. I lowered my voice. Mom, can Maya spend a few hours with you today? A pause, then softly. What happened? I looked toward the front door, toward the life I had spent years defending, and for the first time I answered honestly. I think my marriage has been lying to me. My mother went quiet. Then she said words I would later understand were wisdom wrapped in warning. Baby, sometimes the thing breaking your heart has been broken a long time. You are only just now hearing the crack. My mother arrived in 40 minutes, not 45. Not an hour. 40 minutes. That was who she was. Some women do not rush because they panic. They rush because experience has taught them exactly when panic is appropriate. Her name was Celeste Monroe, and she had the kind of quiet strength that made people lower their voices around her without understanding why. She had raised me mostly alone after my father walked out when I was 9. Not because he found another woman, not because he stopped loving us, but because he found another version of himself he loved more. Freedom, carelessness, escape. My mother used to say something that irritated me when I was younger. A selfish heart never leaves empty-handed. It takes peace with it on the way out. I understood those words now, in ways I wished I did not. When she stepped through my front door, Maya ran straight into her arms. "Grandma!" Celeste bent down and hugged her tightly. "There is my moonbeam!" Maya giggled. "Mommy says I can come bake cookies." My mother smiled warmly. "Then we'd better get moving before I eat all the chocolate chips myself." Maya gasped dramatically. "You better not," for a moment. Joy filled the room. Small joy, temporary joy, the kind life gives you in little handfuls so you can survive bigger pain. My mother looked at me over Maya's shoulder. Her eyes changed instantly. Mother eyes. Sharp eyes. Truth-seeing eyes. She knew. She did not ask in front of Maya. That was another thing wise. Women understand. Children should not have to carry adult storms. After coats, stuffed rabbits, and important discussions about cookie flavors, they left, the front door shut softly behind them. Silence settled over the house. Real silence. Not peaceful silence. Revealing silence. I stood there alone in my kitchen. My heart pounded hard enough for me to feel it in my throat. Then I did something I had avoided for years. I opened our finances. Not the monthly budget spreadsheet I maintained. Not bills, not groceries, not mortgage statements, the hidden corners, the places trust rarely looks. I sat at the dining table with my laptop open. Sunlight moved slowly across the hardwood floor, while numbers began telling me stories Darian never had. At first, it looked harmless. Transfers. Small ones. $200 here. $400 there. $150. Then, larger ones, $800, $1,200, $950, always labeled consulting, vendor reimbursement, project expense, emergency operations. The labels were vague enough to avoid attention, but the dates caught my eye. Almost every transfer happened near the middle or end of the month, and nearly all of them aligned with Saturdays. Saturday. "Please don't forget Saturday," he's been asking. My stomach turned cold. I dug deeper. One account number appeared repeatedly. Same routing path. Same recipient institution. Private transfer. No name attached. Just numbers. But patterns always betray secrets. People lie. Patterns rarely do. Then I found something worse. 3 years ago, Darian had quietly opened a separate savings account. Not secret from the bank. Secret from me. It was linked through his employer direct deposit. A percentage of his bonus income went there automatically. I stared at the balance. $48,000. $48,000. My breathing stopped. I thought about all our conversations. We need to slow spending. We should wait another year before renovating. Private school for Maya is too expensive. Things are tight right now. Tight. There was nearly $50,000 living in shadows while I clipped coupons, postponed dental work, and told Maya we would wait until Christmas for the dollhouse she wanted. A strange laugh escaped me, short, sharp, humorless. Sometimes betrayal becomes so large it almost becomes absurd. You sit there staring at it thinking, surely this cannot be my life. Surely I am misunderstanding. Then truth leans close and whispers, no. You simply trusted the wrong hands. I kept digging. This time I did not find an address. Not yet. That would have been too easy. Instead, I found breadcrumbs. A recurring insurance premium paid from the private account. A policy number I did not recognize. A payment to a children's dental practice 35 minutes away from our home. A charge from a small tutoring center called Bright Steps Learning. A toy store purchase on a Saturday morning. A transaction at a bowling alley called Kingpin Lanes. A receipt from a children's shoe store. Size 1 youth sneakers. My hands froze on the keyboard. Maya wore a size 12. Not one. I stared at the number 1. Such a small number. Such a loud clue. The house felt suddenly too quiet. My phone rang. I jumped. It was my friend Lena Carter. Lena had known me since college. She was blunt, loyal, and blessed with the kind of instincts that often made polite people uncomfortable, because she noticed what everyone else pretended not to see. I answered. "Hey!" Lena immediately paused. "That voice sounds expensive." "What happened?" I almost laughed through tears. Only Lena could phrase heartbreak like a bill coming due. "I think Darian has another life." Silence. Then, "What kind of another life?" "I don't know yet. Cheating. Maybe worse." Another pause. Then her voice became sharp. "Where are you?" "At home. Stay there. I am coming." Lena. Listen carefully. Women make bad decisions when shock is steering the car. Do not confront him. Do not text him. Do not become emotional evidence in your own case. Stay where you are. "I wasn't going to." "Good. I'll be there soon." She hung up. 23 minutes later, Lena walked in, wearing jeans, sneakers, and the expression of a woman ready to fight God if necessary. She set coffee on the table. "Start talking." I showed her everything. The transfers, the hidden savings, the insurance premium, the children's dental office, the tutoring center, the toy store, the size 1 sneakers. Lena sat back slowly. "Oh, hell." "What?" I asked. She looked at me carefully. "This does not smell like an affair." "What do you mean?" "This smells like responsibility." My chest tightened. "What kind?" Lena leaned forward. "The kind men hide because exposure cost them the life they built on top of it." I swallowed. "You think he has another child?" "I think we need proof," she said. I covered my mouth. Maya's face flashed in my mind, her little voice. "Does Daddy carry me?" My eyes filled instantly. Lena reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Listen to me, Alina." I nodded weakly. "If he has divided his life, that is his shame, not Maya's burden, and not yours." I whispered the thing that terrified me most. "What if he loves that child more?" Lena's face softened. "A decent father does not split love by child. He expands it. If he is choosing one child over another, that is character failure, not proof of who is more lovable." I broke then. Quiet tears. Heavy tears, the kind that come not from loud pain, but from old exhaustion finally having permission to sit down. Lena let me cry. Then she said softly, "You know what hurts selfish people most?" I wiped my eyes. "What?" "The moment the person carrying their weight finally puts it down." That stayed with me, because love should never feel like carrying a grown person on your back while they complain about your pace. That evening, Darian came home at 9:11 p.m. He entered quietly. Too quietly, like a man trying not to wake suspicion. I sat in the living room with a book open on my lap. I had not read a single sentence. He looked surprised to see me there. "You are still up?" he asked. "Yes." He loosened his tie. "How was your day?" The question was casual, too casual. I closed the book. "Interesting." His hand paused at his collar. "Interesting how?" I went through some old receipt. His face did not change much, but his eyes did. That small flicker was enough. "Oh, yes. I am trying to clean up our records." "Our records?" "Our household records," I confirmed. He nodded slowly. "Anything I need to know about?" I smiled faintly. "That depends." "On what?" "On whether there is anything I should know about." The room changed. Darian looked at me for a long moment. Then he laughed softly, but it did not reach his eyes. "You've been listening to Lena too much." There it was, deflection. Blame the friend. Make the wife seem influenced, old trick. Tired trick. I stood. No, Darian. I've been listening to myself too little. Then I walked upstairs behind me. He said nothing, but his silence was different now. It had fear inside it, and fear, once it enters a liar's body, starts making mistakes. The next day, I became careful. Not suspicious in the obvious way. Careful, there is a difference. Suspicion shakes doorknobs. Carefulness studies hinges. I did not ask Darian where he was going. I did not check his phone. I did not follow him around the house. Instead, I watched patterns. How he turned his screen away, how he stepped outside for certain calls, how his voice softened when he spoke near the garage, how he used the same phrase 3 times in 2 days. I'll handle it. Handle what? One afternoon, while folding laundry, I found a receipt in the pocket of his gray blazer. Not hidden well, just forgotten. A children's bookstore, 2 purchases. A beginner chapter book about astronauts. A workbook for 3rd grade math. 3rd grade, Maya was in 1st grade. The receipt was from Saturday, the same Saturday Selena had texted about. I held that slip of paper between my fingers while the dryer hummed behind me. Sometimes truth does not kick the door down. Sometimes it leaves paper in a pocket and waits for you to stop pretending. That evening, Darian said he had to run out for an hour. Emergency client issue, he told me. Maya looked up from her coloring book. Can you help me with my reading when you come back? He hesitated. Just half a second. Enough for me to see the conflict. Of course, Bug, Darian said. Maya smiled. Promise? He kissed her forehead. Promise? That word again. It had become so cheap in his mouth it almost made me flinch. He left at 6:18 p.m. at 6:20. 4 p.m., Lena pulled up outside. I had already texted her. He's leaving. I need to see where. She did not ask questions. Good friends know when to become motion. I told Maya grandma was picking her up for a short visit, and my mother arrived like she had been waiting beside the phone. Then Lena and I followed Darian. At first, he drove toward the office district. 10 minutes. 15, I almost relaxed. Maybe he really had a client emergency. Maybe I had built a mountain out of receipts and fear. Then he turned away from downtown. Lena's hands tightened on the wheel. There it is, she said. We followed at a careful distance. He parked outside a small shopping plaza. Not romantic. Not secretive in the way I expected. There was a pharmacy, a tutoring center, a bakery, a children's consignment store, Bright Steps Learning, the tutoring center from the bank charge. My stomach dropped. Darian got out of the car carrying a navy gift bag. Blue tissue paper, children's wrapping. He walked into the tutoring center. Through the glass window, I saw him speak to the receptionist. Then I saw a small figure run toward him. A boy. I could not see his face clearly. Only the speed of him, the joy. The way Darian crouched and opened his arms. The boy crashed into him. Darian hugged him. Long, familiar, fatherly. My breath left me, Lena whispered. Alina. I need to see. Not here. I need to see his face. Alina. Wait. But shock had moved my body before wisdom could stop it. I opened the car door. Lena grabbed my wrist. No, I froze. Through the window, Darian suddenly looked toward the parking lot. For one terrible second, I thought he saw me. Lena pulled me down slightly. Stay still, she whispered. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it. Darian stepped toward the window, still holding the boy's hand. The boy looked up at him, smiling. I caught only a glimpse, curly dark hair, bright eyes, a dimple. Then Darian turned away. My whole body shook. Lena slowly released my wrist. You almost exposed yourself before knowing enough, I whispered. He hugged him like he knew him. Lena's voice was gentle now. He does know him. I covered my mouth. Inside the tutoring center, Darian handed the boy the gift bag. The boy pulled out the astronaut book and jumped with excitement. Then a woman entered from the side hallway. Selena. I recognized the name before I recognized her face. Tall, warm brown skin, soft cardigan, tired eyes. Not glamorous, not flashy, not what I expected. She looked like a mother rushing from one responsibility to another. She touched the boy's shoulder. Then, she touched Darian's arm. Not flirtatious, not secret lover dramatic. Familiar, domestic. That was worse. Then Darian leaned down and whispered something to the boy. The boy nodded. I could not hear the words. But I saw Darian's face. Tender. Open. Present. A version of fatherhood Maya kept waiting for. Lena drove away before I could ask her to stay. I did not fight her, because I could feel myself close to breaking. On the drive home, I stared ahead. Lena spoke quietly. We still need the full truth. I nodded. You have enough to know something is wrong, not enough to know the whole structure. The whole structure, I repeated. Yes. Who knows what? Who owns what? Who is legally tied to whom? What he has promised? What he has hidden? That matters. My accounting mind heard her. My wife heart wanted to scream. My mother heart wanted to protect Maya. All three parts of me were fighting for the steering wheel. When I got home, Darian was already there. That startled me. He stood in the kitchen, reading Maya's book with her at the table. His voice was warm. Patient. Too patient. Maya looked up happily. Mommy, Daddy came back like he said. I smiled. My face did its old job. That's wonderful, baby. Darian looked at me. His eyes searched mine. Everything okay? I took off my coat. Perfectly fine. That night, after Maya went to bed, Darian found me in the laundry room. He leaned against the doorway. You went out earlier. I folded a towel slowly. Yes, where? To breathe? His jaw tightened. With Lena? I looked up. Does that matter? I just asked a question. And I answered one. He stared at me. There was fear in his eyes now. Not guilt alone. Fear. You are changing, Darian said. No. I answered calmly, I am returning. He frowned. To what? To myself. He had no answer, because men who benefit from your shrinking rarely celebrate your return. That night, I waited until Darian slept. Then I checked the family filing cabinet in his office. Not because I wanted to invade his privacy, because privacy and secrecy are not the same thing. Privacy protects dignity. Secrecy protects deception. At the back of a drawer beneath tax folders, I found a sealed envelope from a law office. No address on the outside. Only his name. I should have waited. I did not. Inside was a draft trust document. 2 minors listed. Maya Elise Brooks. Micah James Carter. Micah, a name. A real name. Not a shadow. Not a possibility. A child. The envelope trembled in my hands. Below his name was another phrase. Separate residential property allocation pending. And one address, a townhouse. 35 minutes from our home. I wrote it down. By morning, I had made my decision. Saturday, I would follow him one last time, not to confirm whether he was lying. I already knew that. I needed to see the life he had built with my absence. Because some truths must be seen to be survived. The 2 days before Saturday moved strangely. Time does that when truth is waiting at the door. Hours become heavier. Minutes become louder. Every glance becomes suspicious. Every sentence becomes evidence. Every silence begins to speak. And suddenly, the person you once knew by heart starts feeling like a stranger renting space in your life. Darian came home Friday evening carrying flowers. White lilies, my favorite. He had not brought me flowers in almost a year. Not on birthdays. Not after arguments. Not just because. But now, suddenly, flowers. Guilt has a scent. Sometimes it smells like expensive cologne. Sometimes it smells like white lilies. He held them out with an easy smile. For you, I stared at them for a second too long. Then I took them. They're beautiful. He studied my face. You seem distant. I almost smiled at the irony distance. He had been building another life in shadows, and somehow I was the one becoming distant. I am tired, I said. His eyes narrowed slightly. That answer belonged to him. I had borrowed one of his old excuses and handed it back wrapped in calmness. He noticed. He always noticed when his own medicine touched his tongue. At dinner, he was attentive. Too attentive, he asked Maya about school, helped clear plates, laughed more than usual, touched my lower back while walking past me in the kitchen. Soft little gestures meant to simulate intimacy, not repair simulation. Counterfeit affection spends easily, until truth checks the signature. Later that night, after Maya was asleep, he found me folding laundry in our bedroom. He leaned against the doorway, watching me. "What happened to us?" Darian asked. I kept folding Maya's little shirts into neat squares. "What do you mean? You used to talk to me." I looked up slowly. I did. No, I mean really talk. A sad laugh almost escaped me. The nerve of neglected people is astonishing when abandonment finally changes direction. "I talked, Darian," he frowned. "You know what I mean." "No," I said quietly. "I don't think I do." He stepped closer. "You are shutting me out." That sentence hung in the room like smoke. I stared at him. Then, for the first time in years, I answered with naked truth. "No, Darian, I spent years trying to get in." "There is a difference." His face changed. Something flickered there. Not guilt. Fear. Small, quick, but real. He stepped closer still. "Is this about that text?" I folded another shirt. Should it be? It was work. Then it was work. He waited for accusation. He waited for interrogation. He waited for old Alina. But I gave him no fight, and that unsettled him far more than anger. Men can prepare for storms. Silence terrifies them, because they cannot measure how deep the water has become. He sat on the edge of the bed. "I know I haven't been perfect," I almost said. "No one asked for perfect. But I stayed quiet," he continued. "I've been carrying a lot." There it was, truth standing near the door, still wearing a mask. I folded another shirt. "What kind of a lot?" His eyes lifted toward me. For one dangerous second, I thought he might confess. Instead, work pressure. Cowardice often chooses familiar lies because truth requires courage. I nodded once. "Of course." That answer confused him. He searched my face. "You believe me." I looked at him calmly. "I believe you are carrying something." He swallowed. That landed deeper than accusation, because truth has sharp edges, even when spoken softly. That night, he held me while we slept. Or rather, he held the version of me he thought still existed. His arm rested across my waist. His breath warmed my neck. His body sought comfort from a woman whose heart he had quietly been dividing for years. And lying there in darkness, I understood something painful. Sometimes the person betraying you still loves you in their own broken way. That is what makes leaving complicated. Not all betrayal comes from lack of love. Some comes from selfishness large enough to stand on love's throat. Morning came, Saturday, Truth Day. Darian was dressed by 8:30 a.m. Blue button down, dark jeans. Watch polished, shoes cleaned. Cologne. He looked less like a man running errands and more like a man preparing to be seen. I stood at the coffee maker. "Big meeting?" I asked. He glanced at me. "Something like that." "What time will you be back?" His answer came too quickly. "Late afternoon." Lie. Clean lie. Practiced lie. He touched my shoulder, then left. My stomach twisted. Earlier that morning, I had already dropped Maya at my mother's house, pretending the day was normal when my hands would not stop shaking. The moment his car disappeared, Lena's SUV pulled into my driveway, right on time. She stepped out wearing sunglasses and determination. "Well," Lena said, "let's go meet your husband." Then Lena and I followed. At first, Darian drove downtown. Office district, normal route. For 10 minutes, I almost convinced myself I was crazy. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe grief and suspicion had poisoned ordinary things. Then he kept driving. Past downtown, past the business district, into a quiet suburban neighborhood, lined with maples and trimmed lawns. Townhouses, clean sidewalks, children's bicycles on porches. Flower boxes, family life. My heartbeat thundered. Darian pulled into the driveway of a cream-colored townhouse with blue shutters. He parked, Saturday, there a moment, then got out carrying a gift bag from the passenger seat. A gift bag, blue tissue paper, children's wrapping. My breathing stopped. The front door opened. A little boy burst out. Maybe 7 years old. Curly, dark hair, long legs, bright smile. He ran straight at Darian yelling, "Dad!" The world went silent. Not quiet, silent. The kind of silence that happens when reality punches through denial so hard your mind leaves your body for a second. "Dad!" The boy launched himself into Darian's arms. Darian laughed. Real laughter. Full laughter. The kind I had not heard at home in years. He lifted the child high into the air, spun him once, held him close, and then the front door opened wider. Selina stepped out. This time, I saw more than features. I saw weariness, the kind that settles into a woman who has spent years carrying heavy truths alone. Her shoulders looked tired. Her smile looked practiced. Her eyes held that strange mixture of love, shame, and survival I would later recognize in myself. Not glamorous, not predatory, not triumphant, just tired, human, and somehow that made everything hurt worse. Like life had been heavy on her too. Darian walked toward her carrying the boy, and Selina kissed his cheek like routine, like habit, like family. My hand flew to my mouth. Tears filled my eyes instantly. Beside me, Lena whispered softly. Oh God, I could barely breathe, because betrayal was bad enough. But this was not a side affair, not hidden pleasure, not reckless cheating. This was another life. Another child. Another home. Another version of fatherhood. And suddenly, Maya's little voice came back to me like a blade. Does Daddy carry me? I watched Darian carry another child into another home, and in that moment, something inside me did not break. It hardened. There is a difference. Broken things collapse. Hardened things become sharp, and sharp things cut clean when it is finally time to separate what has been tangled in lies. Then Lena grabbed my wrist. Alina, I kept staring. Alina, look at me. I turned slowly. Her face was grave. There is something else. What? She pointed toward the little boy. Look closely. I wiped my tears and stared again. At his face, at his smile, at the shape of his eyes. My stomach dropped. Not because he looked like Darian, because he looked like Maya. The same smile, the same dimple in the left cheek, the same eyes, the same laugh. My voice came out as a whisper. How old do you think he is? Lena answered quietly. About 7. Maya was 6. My whole body went cold. No, 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 no. Then the truth arrived in full. Not another child after our marriage. Not betrayal during hardship. No. He already had another family when he married me. And sometimes the cruelest lies are not the ones people tell you. They are the life they build while smiling in your face and asking you to call it love. I do not remember the drive home. People think heartbreak always comes with loud crying, shaking hands, and dramatic collapse. Sometimes it does, but sometimes heartbreak is colder than that. Sometimes it is numbness so deep it feels like your soul stepped outside your body because staying inside would hurt too much. That was me in Lena's passenger seat, silent. Still, staring out the window while neighborhoods blurred past like scenery in somebody else's life. Lena kept glancing at me, not speaking. Wise people understand there are moments when words become disrespectful because pain deserves room bigger than language. Finally, she pulled into my mother's driveway. My voice came out flat. I can't let Maya see me like this. Lena put the car in park, then breathe for 60 seconds. I stared ahead. What if I can't? You can, her voice softened. You've been carrying a man who built 2 lives on one back. You can survive one truth. That sentence landed heavily. Because it was true. For years, I had been carrying invisible weight I could never quite explain. Now I knew why my spirit had always been tired. I had been living in a marriage crowded by ghosts I was never introduced to. I sat there for another minute. Then I fixed my face. Not because I was healed, because motherhood does not always allow collapse on schedule. When I walked inside, Maya ran to me holding a flour-covered wooden spoon. Mommy, Grandma let me crack eggs all by myself. I smiled, a real smile somehow, because children can still pull sunlight out of dark places. That's impressive. My mother looked at me once. That was all it took. She knew the truth was worse than suspicion. Later, after Maya was distracted by cartoons and cookies, my mother and Lena sat with me in the kitchen. 3 women, 3 generations of scars, 3 different kinds of strength. I told them everything. The townhouse, the boy, the word dad, Selena, the age, the realization. By the time I finished, silence filled the room. Then my mother stood up slowly, not in shock, in anger, controlled anger, the dangerous kind. She walked to the sink and stared out the window for a long moment before speaking. When did he meet you? My mother asked. 9 years ago. When did you marry? 8 years ago. Maya is 6. Yes. My mother's jaw tightened. That means while he was pursuing you, promising you forever, standing in church vows, and building a marriage with you. He was still maintaining another home life he never disclosed. I nodded weakly. Saying it aloud made it uglier. Truth becomes heavier when spoken where air can touch it. Lena leaned forward. Question. I looked up. Do we know if Selena knows about you? I blinked. The thought had barely crossed my mind. I don't know, because if she doesn't, then Darian built one lie with 2 innocent women living inside it. My mother added quietly, and 2 children paying the price. That hit hard, because suddenly I saw not one child hurt by him. 2, Maya, and that little boy. Children born into a web they did not spin. My voice cracked. What kind of man does that? My mother answered softly. A weak one. Not evil, not monster weak. There was something sobering in that. Weakness creates devastation far beyond what strength ever would. Weak men chase comfort, hide truth, delay accountability, and in protecting themselves, they wound everyone standing near them. My mother sat beside me. She took my hand like she had when I was little. Listen carefully, I nodded. You are standing at a dangerous crossroads. What do you mean? You can become consumed by rage. Her voice remained calm. Or you can become wise. I stared at her. She continued. Rage burns hot and fast. It feels powerful, but it often burns the person holding it. Wisdom is slower, colder, cleaner. Wisdom protects what matters and lets truth destroy what deserves to fall. Lena nodded. She's right, I whispered. I want him to hurt. My mother squeezed my hand. That is honest. Tears filled my eyes. I want him to feel what he did, and he will. Her eyes held mine. But not because you scream, not because you beg, not because you become chaos. She leaned closer. Selfish people suffer most when they lose access to what quietly held their life together. That sentence settled deep inside me. Quietly held their life together. That had been me, the appointments, the home, the meals, the emotional balance. The child's stability, the softness, the forgiveness, the covering, the waiting, the believing. I had been the unseen foundation beneath a man who thought he built everything himself, and suddenly I understood He was not standing tall. He was standing on me, and the moment I stepped away, gravity would introduce itself. That night, Darian came home around 6 carrying balloons, pink and silver, a giant stuffed unicorn, and a toy telescope. My stomach turned. Maya squealed with joy. "Daddy!" He swept her up into his arms. "For my favorite girl." Favorite? The word landed like poison. Favorite compared to whom? Compared to the boy he had just lifted in another driveway. Or was favorite simply a convenient costume he wore house to house? I watched him kneel beside Maya, helping her open the telescope box. His laughter filled the room. His smile looked genuine. That somehow made everything worse. Because monsters are easier to leave, but broken men who are loving in pieces. They confuse your pain, make you question your judgment, keep you trapped between truth and memory. At dinner, Darian was unusually relaxed, almost glowing, as though spending the afternoon elsewhere had fed some hunger I had never known existed. He reached for my hand across the table. I pulled back slightly to reach for water. The movement was subtle, but he noticed. His eyes sharpened. Later, after Maya slept, he found me in the backyard sitting alone beneath the porch light. Spring air moved softly through the trees. Crickets hummed. The neighborhood looked peaceful. Funny how beautiful nights can hold ugly truths. Darian sat beside me. "You've been strange." I stared ahead. "Maybe I am tired." He laughed softly. "My line again?" I said nothing. He studied my face. Then quietly, "Are you unhappy?" That question nearly made me laugh. Not because it was funny, because some people stab you and then ask why you are bleeding. I turned toward him slowly. "Are you?" He blinked. "What?" "Unhappy." He looked away. That was answer enough. Then he said something I will never forget. I thought what we had would be enough. My whole body went cold. What we had. Enough. Not everything, enough. As though he were speaking like a man rationing himself between households. My voice was quiet. "Enough for what?" He rubbed his hands together. "For life." That strange answer hung there. Half confession, half lie. The kind selfish people offer when truth is scratching at the walls. I looked at him. Really looked. At the man I married, at the stranger wearing his face. And for the first time, I realized something painful. I had spent years fighting for honesty from a man who had never once brought his whole self home. Not once. Only pieces. Only portions. Only leftovers of truth. And there is an old lesson life keeps teaching in different clothes. You cannot build a full future with someone only giving you fractions. That night, while Darian slept, I made 3 decisions. First, I would gather proof. Second, I would find out whether Selena knew. Third, I would leave in a way that protected Maya's heart and secured her future. Not loudly, not recklessly, cleanly. Because revenge shouted becomes noise, but justice served cold becomes memory. And memory has a way of haunting selfish people long after doors quietly close. The next morning, while Darian showered, his phone buzzed on the dresser. A name appeared clearly this time. Selena, and beneath it, he keeps asking when he can finally see his sister. My breath caught. His sister. My mind raced. Then horror arrived. The children knew of each other, but had never met, which meant Darian had been weaving stories in both homes, maintaining 2 worlds, managing 2 truths, playing father on overlapping stages. I stared at those words until one chilling thought formed. If the children knew, then Selena likely knew about Maya. But did she know about me, or had he built another lie there too? I looked toward the bathroom door. Water still running, steam filling the room. Then I looked back at the message, and for the first time in my life, I did something that would change everything. I picked up Selena's number and wrote it down. I stood there holding that number like it was fire. 1 phone number, 10 digits. Such a small thing to carry so much destruction. My hands trembled. Not because I was afraid of what I might hear, because somewhere deep inside me, I already knew. Women know more than they admit to themselves. We feel cracks before walls fall. We sense absence before names are spoken. We recognize borrowed affection before proof arrives. The heart often knows long before the mind gathers courage to listen. I quickly saved Selina's number on a scrap piece of paper from Maya's drawing pad, folded it twice, and tucked it into the pocket of my robe, just as the bathroom water shut off. Darian walked out moments later wrapped in a towel, steam trailing behind him. He smiled. That same easy smile. That same familiar face. That same stranger. "You are up early," Darian said. "I couldn't sleep." He dried his hair with another towel. "Everything okay?" I looked at him, straight into his eyes. For years, I had looked at him searching for reassurance. Now I looked at him searching for truth. There is a difference. Truth does not blush under your gaze. Lies do. His eyes shifted first, just slightly. "Enough," I answered calmly. "I am fine," he nodded, relieved too quickly. Then he dressed for church. Church, that irony almost broke me. Some people wear faith like perfume, something they spray on before stepping into public. Clean on the outside, rotting beneath the collar. By noon, Darian had taken Maya for ice cream. That was unusual, almost strategic. A fatherly gesture placed like flowers on a grave no one had acknowledged yet. The moment they left, I sat at the kitchen table and stared at Selina's number. Then I called one ring. 2, 3. Voicemail. I hung up. Cowardice. No, not cowardice. Timing. You only get one first conversation with truth. You do not waste it shaking. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Unknown number, I answered quietly. Hello, a woman's voice spoke carefully. Hi, I missed a call from this number. Selina. I closed my eyes briefly. This was it. The doorway. The cliff edge. One sentence would determine what came next. I chose honesty. My name is Alina Brooks. Silence, long silence. Then softly, I know who you are. My entire body went cold. Not shock. Confirmation. You know who I am? I asked. Yes. Her voice trembled slightly. I've known for years. My throat tightened. Then you know I am his wife. Another long pause. Then, yes. My fingers curled around the phone. Anger surged hot in my chest. You knew. Selina's voice sharpened with panic. Before you start treating me like some cheap woman hiding in the dark, you need to know I did not come after your husband. The words hit like a slap. I stood from the table. My husband was leaving my house to go play father in yours, and you want to correct my tone? Selina exhaled shakily. No, I want you to understand that I was lied to too. You knew I existed, and you didn't know I existed at all, she said. That silenced me, not because she was right in a way that excused her, because pain had more than one address. I gripped the back of a chair. What explanation exists for this? Then I heard something unexpected, crying. Quiet, crying. Not manipulative. Not theatrical. Exhausted crying. The kind people do when carrying shame too long. When Selina spoke again, her voice was broken. I am not the other woman. I laughed bitterly. Then what exactly are you? Her answer shattered everything. I thought I understood. I was in his life before you. Silence swallowed the room. I gripped the edge of the table. What? We were together before you. My breathing became shallow. I leaned forward, my voice tightening. He met me 9 years ago, Selina nodded slowly. Yes, that's when he started building 2 lives. My breathing became shallow. And he married me 8 years ago. Selina's voice trembled. Yes, he told me he had ended things with you emotionally. I closed my eyes. Lie layered on lie. To Selina, I was the woman he called responsibility. To me, she did not exist. 2 women, 2 truths, 1 cowardly man, Selina continued. He said you were pregnant and unstable. He said he couldn't abandon you, but that your marriage was more about responsibility than love. My voice turned cold. Were you his wife? Selina shook her head quickly. No, never. She wiped at her eyes and steadied herself. I was never his wife, Alina. I was the woman he kept promising to return to. Then I became the secret he kept feeding hope to. My chest tightened. And while he was promising you tomorrow, he married me? Selina nodded slowly. Yes. Her voice broke. He married you legally. He kept me emotionally trapped. Every time I tried to walk away, he promised he was fixing things. I kept believing next month would be different. Then, next month became years. There it was. Clean truth. One legal wife, one hidden family built on promises, fear, and cowardice. Not two marriages. One marriage, two homes, and a man too weak to live, honestly, in either one. A sound left me that did not feel human, pregnant and unstable. So he had not only hidden her from me, he had rewritten me for her, I asked quietly. And you believed him? At first, yes, at first. Selina's voice hardened now. Do you want honesty or comfort, Alina? I want truth. Then yes, at first, I believed him. Then later, I suspected he was lying. Then I knew he was lying. And by then, my son loved him. My life was tied to his money, and I was ashamed enough to keep waiting for the truth he kept promising. I hated her in that moment, and I understood her. Both things were true. That is what betrayal does. It creates emotions that cannot sit neatly in one chair. What is his name, Micah? How old is Micah? 7, conceived before vows. Before rings, before promises spoken to me in church. My whole marriage tilted sideways, not because it was broken, because I suddenly realized it had never stood straight. Selina said softly, I know you hate me. I don't know what I feel, I said quietly. That's fair. No, I said. Fair would have been you calling me years ago, her breath caught. You are right. That stopped me. Defensive people can be argued with. People who admit the truth become harder to attack, Selina whispered. I was weak. I said nothing, she continued. And weakness can still hurt people. I know that. I won't pretend I was innocent in everything. My anger shifted slightly, not gone. Just redirected, because there was only one architect of this ruin. Darian, I asked. Does Micah know Maya is his sister? Yes. Does Maya know him? No. He asks about her, Selina whispered. He sees her pictures in Darian's wallet. Pictures, plural. My chest tightened. There were moments. Darian had stared at Maya's photos with tears in his eyes. I thought that was fatherly love. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe grief, maybe conflict, maybe all three. Selina spoke softly. Alina, I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but please don't punish the children for what he did. That surprised me. Not save me, not forgive me, protect the children. That was a mother speaking. Not a rival, not an enemy, a mother, I asked quietly. If I asked you to meet me woman to woman, would you? Yes. Immediately. No. Hesitation. Yes, how soon today? There is a cafe on Maple Street called Willow and Oak, 4 o'clock. I'll be there. Before hanging up, Selina whispered something that lodged deep in my soul. For what it's worth, he speaks about you like you are the best thing that ever happened to him. A bitter tear slipped down my cheek. Funny how selfish people often recognize gold while still digging in dirt. At 3:42 p.m., I walked into Willow and Oak with my heart steady and my mind sharper than it had been in years. Not calm. Calm suggests comfort. This was clarity, cold clarity. The kind that comes when illusion finally dies and truth is the only thing left standing in the room. The cafe was warm and softly lit. Brick walls, low jazz music, the smell of roasted coffee and cinnamon, couples talking quietly. Students typing on laptops, a little girl near the window coloring with crayons, while her father read paperwork beside her. Ordinary life happening everywhere, and there is something strange about betrayal. It makes ordinary things feel sacred because you suddenly understand how precious honesty really is. Selina was already there. She sat in the far corner near the window, hands wrapped around a coffee cup she clearly had not touched. She stood when she saw me. For a second, we simply stared at each other. Two women whose lives had been stitched together by lies neither of us created. Up close, she looked exhausted. That was the first thing I noticed. Not threatening, not triumphant. Exhausted. The kind of tired that settles behind the eyes after carrying heartbreak too long. I sat down. Neither of us knew where to begin. Finally, Selina spoke. "I am sorry." My jaw tightened. "For what exactly? For my part in this?" I looked at her carefully. "You knew." "Yes. You stayed." Tears filled her eyes immediately. "Yes. Why?" Her answer came without decoration. "Because I loved him. Because Micah loved him. Because every time I tried to leave, he promised truth was coming. And because part of me was ashamed to admit I had given my life to a man who kept splitting himself into pieces." I looked away. "You do understand that your shame became my blindness." Selina flinched. "Yes. And your silence helped him lie to me." "Yes. And mine probably helped him lie to you." She looked at me then. Her eyes filled. Yes, that was the first moment we stopped being two women on opposite sides of a table. Not friends. Not yet. But witnesses. I leaned back. "Tell me everything." And she did for nearly an hour. The full ugly story. She met Darian 11 years ago. They were serious quickly. She became pregnant unexpectedly. At first, Darian was attentive, excited, committed. Then fear entered him. Career, ambitions, financial worries, pressure, responsibility. And instead of becoming stronger, he became divided. He told Selina he needed space to think. During that space, he met me. He pursued me fully, promised me exclusivity, promised forever. Meanwhile, he kept telling Selina they were simply complicated, not over. When Selina discovered he had proposed to me, he told her marrying me would help him build a stronger, more stable life financially, one that would allow him to provide better for Micah in the long run. He promised Selina that once he was secure, he would finally make everything right. He was using my stability to justify his dishonesty, using one woman as a foundation while feeding another woman hope. That is not love. That is selfishness dressed up as strategy. My stomach turned. Stability. I was not a wife in his story. I was infrastructure, a foundation built on lies. And yet, he loved me. That was the twisted thing. Selina described him crying over me, speaking lovingly about me, talking proudly about Maya, showing photos, calling me brilliant, patient, and kind. He had genuine love for both homes. But genuine love without genuine truth becomes poison. Because divided honesty is simply deception dressed warmly. I asked Selina, "Did he ever plan to choose?" Her laugh was hollow. "No. Men who fear consequences rarely choose. They wait for circumstances to choose for them." That sentence felt like scripture. Then she showed me something that changed everything. A folder. Receipts, medical records, school papers, birthday photos, and one folded letter. She pushed it toward me. "He wrote this 3 years ago, never sent it to you. I found it in his jacket, and kept it because I thought someday truth would need witnesses." I opened it. Darian's handwriting, messy but unmistakable. I read, "I keep living in rooms built by my own lies. Every day I promise myself I'll tell the truth. Every day I look at what honesty will destroy and become smaller instead of braver. I am loved by people who deserve better than the man I keep choosing to be." I stopped reading. My eyes filled instantly, because that was the cruelest part. He knew. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was not blind, not confused, not trapped. He was choosing cowardice repeatedly, with full awareness of the damage. That is a different kind of betrayal, the intentional kind. I asked, "Does Micah know how complicated this is?" Selina shook her head. "No, he only knows Daddy lives somewhere else with his little sister." My throat tightened. His little sister. There it was again. Recognition, connection, children seeing family. Where adults built walls, I whispered. Maya deserves to know truth someday. But gently. Selina nodded. And Micah too. For the first time, we were not rivals across a table. We were mothers, protectors, women cleaning up wreckage. Then Selina leaned forward. "There is something else," my stomach sank. "What now?" "He's about to do something big." "What?" "He told me last week he was finally fixing everything." Cold fear moved through me. What does that mean? He mentioned changing insurance policies, beneficiary paperwork, property titles, college funds. He kept saying once he organized everything, he'd have the conversation. I froze. He was restructuring assets, preparing disclosure, or preparing control. My accountant's mind clicked on instantly. Paperwork, beneficiaries, titles, funds. Not emotional moves. Financial architecture. And financial architecture leaves footprints. I looked at Selina. "Has he ever asked you for documents?" Her face changed. "Yes." "What kind?" "Micah's birth certificate, Social Security records, some insurance forms." My pulse quickened. "When?" "Last month." My mind raced. Then horror formed. He wasn't preparing honesty. He was preparing legal positioning. Positioning for what? Protection? Estate planning? Concealment? Division? Or something worse? I stood suddenly, Selina startled. "What is it?" I answered slowly. "I need to know exactly what he's doing with money, property, and beneficiary records." My accounting instincts were awake now. Patterns, paper trails, structures, intent hidden in documentation. That is where truth often lives when mouths lie. Selina grabbed my hand before I left. "Alina," I looked down. "For what it's worth, I think he truly loves you." A sad smile touched my mouth. "That may be true." Then I said the lesson. Many women eventually learn, but love without integrity is just hunger wearing a wedding ring. Selina's eyes filled. She whispered, "That's exactly what he is." I walked out of Willow and Oak into the evening air feeling transformed. Not healed, transformed. There is a difference. Healing softens, transformation sharpens, and sharp women become dangerous to deceit because they stop asking lies to explain themselves. They simply gather truth and act. That night, when Darian came home smiling and carrying takeout from my favorite restaurant, he found me at the dining table. Laptop open, folders stacked neatly. Notebook ready, calculator beside me. The old me would have cried. The old me would have screamed. The old me would have demanded confession. But pain had educated me, and education makes quiet women terrifying. He stopped in the doorway. His smile faded. "What's all this?" Darian asked. I looked up calmly, then said 5 words that drained color from his face. "We need to discuss paperwork." For the first time since I met Darian, I watched confidence leave his body. Not dramatically, it slipped away quietly, the way water drains from a cracked glass. His shoulders tightened, his jaw shifted, his grip on the takeout bag loosened slightly. There is something about paperwork that terrifies dishonest people. Words can be twisted, tears can be manipulated, arguments can be redirected, but documents sit quietly and refuse to lie. He set the food on the kitchen counter. "What paperwork?" I closed the laptop gently. Not hard, not theatrical, controlled. The kind with numbers. He gave a small, uneasy laugh. "You are being cryptic." I folded my hands. "No, Darian. For the first time in years, I am being clear. He stood still, watching me, measuring me, trying to understand what version of his wife sat in front of him. Then he pulled out a chair and sat down slowly. What's going on? I held his gaze. Our finances don't make sense. That landed. Not because of what I said, because of how quickly fear moved across his eyes before he covered it. He leaned back. What do you mean? I mean hidden transfers. His expression hardened slightly. Business. I mean a private savings account worth nearly $50,000. Silence. I mean a trust draft with Maya and Micah listed. His face went pale. There it was, not confusion, recognition, he whispered. Where did you get that? I smiled sadly. That's your first question, Darian swallowed. Alina, you don't understand. Stage 1, the classic opening, you don't understand. As though betrayal becomes smaller when wrapped in complexity, I leaned back. Then help me understand. He rubbed both hands over his face. It's complicated. Stage 2, complicated. Another word people use when simple truth would make them accountable. I opened the folder and placed copies of the transfers on the table. Money is not complicated. Then I placed the tutor receipt down. Children's expenses are not complicated. Then I placed the address down. Property is not complicated. Then I looked directly at him. Lies are complicated. His eyes filled. Please don't do this like an audit. That almost made me laugh. You turned my marriage into hidden accounts and unnamed obligations. What exactly did you expect me to do? He looked away. I was trying to protect everyone. Stage 3. Protection. That old coward's cloak. I lowered my voice. No, you were protecting yourself. He shook his head. No, Alina. I was trying to keep the children stable. By lying to their mothers? I didn't know how to fix it. You knew how to fund it. That landed like a slap. His mouth opened, then closed. I continued. You knew how to schedule Saturdays. His eyes lowered. You knew how to hide transfers. He swallowed. You knew how to buy gifts. His tears gathered. You knew how to make one child wait while another child asked. His face crumpled. I leaned forward. So do not sit here and tell me you did not know how. You knew how to manage the lie. You simply did not know how to become honest. Silence long, heavy, the kind that waits for a soul to decide whether it will keep hiding. Finally, Darian whispered, I never wanted this. My voice remained steady. But you built it. He closed his eyes. Yes, stage 4, collapse. That one word carried years of buried truth. No denial, no twisting, no escape, just yes. My heart cracked again, but this time around certainty. Not confusion, I asked. How long? His voice dropped. 11 years. Longer than me, before me. During me, through me, I nodded slowly. And you married me anyway. His shoulders sagged. I loved you. The answer came fast. Too fast, too earnest. I believed he believed it. That was the tragedy. Selfish people often mistake wanting someone deeply for loving them rightly, I asked. And Selena, he whispered, I loved her too. There it was, the full sickness. Not lack of love, lack of integrity, a heart large enough to feel love, but too weak to choose honesty. Tears slipped down his face. I kept trying to fix it. I laughed once, sharp broken. You mean hide it better? No, his voice cracked. I kept thinking there would be a right time to tell the truth. There is never a right time for betrayal. He looked down. I know. No, I said quietly. You understood. Knowing and changing are different things. That sentence hit him hard, because wisdom does what anger often cannot. It names the wound precisely. Then I asked the question that mattered most. Did you ever plan to leave me? His head snapped up. No. Did you ever plan to leave Selena? Pain moved across his face. No. I nodded. Once, truth, ugly truth, honest truth. He wanted both worlds forever. Not because he needed them. Because he wanted them. There is an old saying my mother used to whisper. A greedy hand eventually drops everything, because it refuses to hold one blessing with gratitude. Darian had spent years clutching too much. Now everything was slipping. He leaned forward desperately. I love Maya. I know, and I love you. I looked at him carefully, then answered with brutal softness. You love being loved by me. He froze, that landed like truth always lands. Heavy, he whispered. That's not fair. It's exactly fair. My voice remained calm. Love protects. Love tells truth. Love chooses courage over comfort. What you did was feed from two homes while calling yourself hungry. His tears came harder. He covered his face. I hate myself. That should have satisfied me years ago. It would have. But strangely, it did not. Because pain matures, revenge screams for suffering, wisdom asks for accountability, and accountability is colder, cleaner, and far more lasting. I asked, what were you changing financially? He looked confused by the sudden shift. What? The paperwork, beneficiaries, policies, property. He wiped his eyes. I was creating equal college funds for both children. That softened me slightly. At least that. He nodded weakly. I was also putting both homes into trust structures. Both homes, the words still stung. Why now? His face changed. Then he said quietly, because my doctor found something. Cold fear hit me. What? He swallowed hard. A mass in my lung. Silence. The room went still. He continued. They don't know if it's cancer yet. More testing next week. I stared at him, and suddenly, puzzle pieces slammed together. The paperwork, the urgency, the emotional shifts, the extra attention, the gifts, the flowers, the attempts at closeness. He was preparing because mortality had knocked on his door. Death makes cowards suddenly interested in truth. Not always because they become brave. Sometimes because they become afraid of leaving unfinished messes, I whispered. So that's what woke your conscience. His eyes filled again. Yes. That answer made me furious in a different way. Not because he was sick, because it took fear for himself. Not love for us to finally move him toward honesty. That is a painful measure of character. I stood up slowly, steadily. He stood too, panicked. Please don't leave, Darian said. I looked at him with tears in my eyes. Darian, I left a long time ago. My body just hadn't caught up yet. He broke then, fully broke, collapsed into the chair, sobbing. Not polished tears. Ugly grief. The sound of a man finally crushed beneath the weight he made. Others carry for years. And even then, I pitied him. Because love does not disappear neatly. It lingers like smoke long after fire destroys the house. But pity is not permission to stay. I spoke softly. You will always be Maya's father. He looked up desperately. And Micah's. He nodded. You will provide equally for both children. Yes, you will tell the truth fully. Yes, you will never make those children feel divided. He cried harder. I promise. I almost smiled sadly. Promises. He had spent a lifetime cheapening that word. So I answered, do not promise, perform. Then I said the words that changed everything. Tomorrow, Selena is coming here. We tell the truth woman to woman, parent to parent, and we build a healthier future for those children without lies. His face drained completely. He whispered, you know, Selena? I know everything. And there is a quiet justice in watching a man who controlled the story realize he no longer owns the narrative. Because truth is like fire once released, it answers to no one. The next morning, the house felt like it was holding its breath. Some homes remember. They remember laughter. They remember arguments. They remember secrets whispered behind closed doors. And sometimes they remember the exact moment truth finally walked in and refused to leave. That Sunday morning, my house remembered everything. I woke before sunrise. Not because I slept well. I barely slept at all. But something inside me had changed. For years, I woke each day carrying emotional weight I could not name. Now, I knew its name: deception. And strangely, naming pain makes it lighter to carry. Not lighter because it hurts less. Lighter because confusion is heavier than truth. I stood in the kitchen making coffee while dawn slowly filled the windows. The house was quiet. Maya still slept upstairs. Darian sat at the dining table exactly where I had left him hours earlier. Same chair, same clothes, same hollow look in his eyes. He looked smaller somehow. Truth shrinks false strength. The image of power often depends on what others do not know. Once exposed, illusion collapses under its own emptiness. I poured coffee into 2 mugs, set one in front of him. He looked surprised. "You made me coffee?" Darian asked. I sat across from him. "You are still Maya's father." His eyes filled instantly. Not because of coffee, because grace wounds selfish people more deeply than hatred sometimes can. Hatred lets them become victims in their own minds. Grace forces them to face what they destroyed. He wrapped shaking hands around the mug. "I don't deserve your kindness." "No," I said. "Honestly, you don't." His face fell. Then I added, "But Maya deserves parents who can behave like adults." That steadied the room, not reconciliation. Order, there is a difference. Around 10 o'clock, my mother, Celeste, arrived to take Maya out for the afternoon. She walked in carrying bright energy. "Who wants pancakes and a movie?" Celeste asked. Maya came racing downstairs. "Me!" My mother hugged her tightly, then bent low and whispered loudly enough for all of us to hear, "And maybe shopping for that dollhouse you wanted." Maya gasped. Her whole face lit like sunrise. "Really? Really?" She flew into my arms first. "Mommy, Grandma's the best." I kissed her forehead. "She really is." Then Maya turned to Darian. He knelt and hugged her longer than usual, too long holding on. His eyes shut tightly. He whispered against her hair, "I love you bigger than the sky." Maya smiled. "I love you bigger than space." Children say things that sound simple but carry galaxies. He kissed her forehead again. When she left, silence filled the doorway she had just run through. Then Darian broke quietly, not sobbing, just tears falling unchecked. "I almost lost all of that," Darian said. I looked at him. "No, you were losing it slowly for years. You just finally noticed." That truth sat heavy between us. At noon, Selena arrived with Micah. When I opened the door, my breath caught. Not because of Selena, because of Micah. Standing beside his mother, holding her hand, was a little boy with Darian's eyes and Maya's smile. He looked up at me politely. "Hi," his voice was sweet. Open, innocent, completely unaware, he stood in the doorway of generations of adult damage. I crouched slightly. "Hi, Micah." He smiled shyly. "My mom said we're having grown-up talks." I smiled softly. "We are." He lifted a toy spaceship in his hand. "Can I still play?" "Of course." "Yes, baby. You sure can." His whole face brightened. Children are beautifully resilient before adults teach them pain. Inside, Darian stood frozen when he saw Micah. The boy ran to him instantly. "Dad!" Darian dropped to one knee and hugged him hard, then harder. His shoulders shook. Micah pulled back. "Daddy, why are you crying?" Darian wiped his face quickly. "Sometimes grown men cry when they're grateful." Micah nodded thoughtfully. "That's okay. My mom cries too." The innocence of that nearly crushed me. Children normalize the wounds adults keep causing. Selena and I exchanged a long look. No rivalry now, only shared understanding. Then my mother's wisdom returned to me. 2 innocent women, 2 innocent children, 1 weak man. We sat in the living room. Darian finally told the full truth. No excuses, no polishing, no victimhood, just confession, how fear made him lie, how cowardice kept him lying, how love became possession instead of honesty, how he kept promising himself truth tomorrow while destroying lives today. When he finished, silence settled. Then Selina spoke first. Her voice was steady. You stole years from me. Darian lowered his head. Yes. I spoke next. You stole trust from me. He nodded, tears falling. Yes. Then Micah looked up from the floor where he was playing with toy blocks. His little voice cut through everything. Did Daddy do something bad? The room froze. No one moved. No one breathed. Children always arrive at truth by the shortest road. I stood, walked over, and knelt beside him. I touched his shoulder gently. Daddy made mistakes. Micah looked worried. Big mistakes! I nodded softly. Yes. He thought for a moment, then asked, can mistakes be fixed? And there it was, the moral center of the entire story spoken by a child. Can mistakes be fixed? I looked at Darian, at Selina, at the wreckage, then at this innocent boy who deserved better. My answer came slowly. Some mistakes leave scars forever, but honest hearts can still build something better from what's broken. Micah nodded like that, made perfect sense. Children understand rebuilding better than adults do. Adults cling to what was. Children simply learn what can be. Then came the moment none of us expected. Micah asked. When do I meet my sister? Silence. Then Darian cried openly. Selina covered her mouth. And I smiled through tears. Because children were reaching for connection while adults had spent years building walls. I whispered. Soon. Very soon, that afternoon, Maya came home. She walked in carrying shopping bags and excitement. Then she stopped, saw Micah. Tilted her head. Children study faces instinctively. Then she smiled. You look kind of like me. Micah grinned. My mom says I have a sister. Maya looked at me. I nodded gently. Yes, sweetheart. She looked back at him. Then, in the simple, miraculous way children sometimes heal what adults destroy, she asked, Do you want to see my telescope? Micah's eyes lit up. Yes, and just like that, they ran upstairs laughing. No baggage, no bitterness, no shame. Only wonder. Watching them disappear up the stairs, I understood something profound. Children inherit truth better than lies. Truth may wound briefly. Lies wound for generations. That evening, after everyone left, Darian stood in the doorway with a suitcase. He looked at me, broken, humbled, human. I never deserved you, he said. I answered softly. That was never the issue. He waited. I finished. You simply never valued truth enough to keep what deserved protecting. He cried quietly. Then left, no shouting, no dramatic slam of doors, just footsteps fading down the porch and the quiet closing of a chapter that had exhausted my soul. Weeks later, I sat on the porch watching Maya and Micah play in the yard. Brother and sister, laughing, arguing, building forts, becoming family in honesty. Selina sat beside me, not as enemy, not even as friend, exactly. Something deeper, a fellow survivor. Women tied not by betrayal anymore, but by rebuilding, Selina asked quietly. Do you miss him? I watched the children. Then answered honestly. I miss who I believed he was. That is a different grief. Then I added, but peace feels better than pretending. And that was my lesson. A woman argues when she cares. She explains when she believes. She repeats herself when she is trying to save what is breaking. But when she grows quiet, listen carefully, because silence is not always peace. Sometimes it is wisdom packing its bags. Sometimes it is self-respect standing up. Sometimes it is love, finally refusing to bleed alone. And sometimes quiet is simply the sound of a woman choosing herself before there is nothing left of her to choose. A year can change everything, and nothing. That is the strange mathematics of heartbreak. Some wounds heal beautifully. Some wounds scar quietly. Some wounds never fully close, but you learn how to live without bleeding on everything you touch. 1 year later, my life no longer looked like the life I thought I wanted. It looked better. Not easier, not cleaner, but truer, and truth, even when it arrives dressed like grief, eventually becomes freedom's most honest doorway. I moved. Not far, just far enough. A bright 2-story home 15 minutes away, tucked inside a quiet neighborhood, lined with dogwoods and maple trees. It had a wraparound porch Maya loved, and a backyard big enough for 2 children to run until sunset painted their faces gold. Inside, there was laughter again. Real laughter, not careful laughter, not forced peace, not the fragile kind that shatters when tension walks into the room. Honest laughter, the kind that rises naturally when nobody is lying. Maya was 7 now. Micah was 8, and watching them together still amazed me. They fought over toys, argued about cartoons, built blanket forts in the living room, teamed up against bedtime, defended each other at school like tiny lawyers. Love had found them faster than truth. Wounded them. Children are miraculous that way. Adults study pain. Children study possibility. Selena and I became something neither of us expected. Family. Not traditional family. Of course. Not easy family, but chosen family built from shared fire. We spent holidays together, rotated school pickups, shared dinners, laughed at things that once would have made us cry. Sometimes, life grows gardens exactly where betrayal buried bones, and sometimes women, once freed from competing for crumbs, realize they were always worthy of the whole loaf. Darian kept his promises, not with words, with action. He established equal trust funds, transferred both homes properly, created education accounts for both children, set legal guardianship documents, entered counseling, and for the first time in his life, he began living one truth instead of juggling many lies. But consequence still came. His diagnosis returned 2 months after he moved out. Stage 2 lung cancer. Treatable, but serious. When he told me, he cried, not because he feared dying, because for the first time, he understood what it meant to truly lose time. There is an old cruelty in life. The selfish waste years casually until they suddenly understand years are expensive. Then, regret becomes their loudest companion. One evening, months later, I visited him. Not as wife, not as lover, as the mother of his child, as someone who once loved him deeply enough to mourn what he chose not to be. His apartment was small, simple, quiet, no divided households, no hidden doors, no parallel lives, just one man and the full echo of his choices. He looked thinner, older, more honest, somehow. Pain strips performance from people. He made tea. We sat on a balcony overlooking a small park where autumn leaves covered the ground like gold paper. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then Darian said quietly, "I think about what I destroyed every day." I looked ahead. "You built destruction slowly. You are only seeing it clearly now." He nodded. "That's fair." Then softly, "I loved you." I smiled sadly. "I know. I really did." I turned toward him. "Darian, love was never your problem." He looked confused. "What was?" I answered gently. "Character." That landed hard, because it was true. Love without character becomes selfish appetite. Love with character becomes sacrifice, honesty, and protection. He stared into his cup. "I keep asking myself why I did it." "Do you know?" His answer came after a long silence. "Yes." "What?" He swallowed. "I wanted to be admired by everyone and accountable to no one." There it was, the root. Not romance, not confusion, vanity, cowardice, appetite. He continued. "I wanted every version of happiness and thought I was clever enough to hold them all." I nodded slowly. And his eyes filled. All I held was ruin. Truth finally spoken cleanly. Sometimes the punishment is not losing what you love. Sometimes the punishment is finally understanding you were the reason it was lost. He looked at me. Do you forgive me? I thought carefully, then answered honestly. I released hatred. He waited. That is not the same as restoring trust. He nodded. I understand. And strangely, he did. That was growth. Late, painfully late, but real. Before I left, he stopped me at the door. Alina, I turned. He smiled sadly. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. I answered softly. No, he frowned. I finished. The best thing that happened to you was being loved by people better than you deserve. The tragedy is you learned their value only after hurting them. Tears filled his eyes. Not because I was cruel, because truth spoken without anger cuts deeper than rage ever could. A few weeks later, Maya asked me a question while we sat on the porch watching Micah chase fireflies. Mommy? Yes, baby? Are broken families bad? Children ask enormous questions in tiny voices. I pulled her close. No, sweetheart. What are they? I kissed her forehead. Families are like trees. Some grow straight. Some bend in storms. Some split into branches. Nobody expected. What matters is whether love keeps growing. She thought hard about that. Then smiled. We're growing. I smiled too. Yes, we were, and so was I, because rebuilding taught me what survival never could. You can love deeply and still walk away. You can forgive and still protect yourself. You can be wounded and still become wonderful. You can lose the life you planned and find the life you were meant for. And when women finally understand their worth, something beautiful happens. They stop begging empty cups to pour. They stop standing in burning rooms calling smoke normal. They stop shrinking themselves to fit inside someone else's selfishness. They become whole, quietly, powerfully, completely. And that quiet wholeness is louder than any revenge. Some women do not rise because life was kind. They rise because betrayal taught them how to build wings from broken things. And once a woman learns she can fly, she never again mistakes a cage for home. That is not revenge. That is resurrection. And resurrection is the quiet kind of victory no lie can survive. If this story reminded you that silence does not always mean weakness, stay with me. Some women do not become stronger because they wanted to. They become stronger because life leaves them no softer way to survive. The next story is about one of those women. Click the next story on your screen because some endings do not explode all at once. They leave quietly and return a completely different woman.